Dear friends, Shabbat Shalom from Moscow to the congregation of Temple Beth Shalom in New City, New York. My name is Leonid Bimbat. I'm a rabbi of Moscow Center for Progressive Judaism, also known as Moscow Reform Synagogue. We are the only non-Orthodox Jewish congregation in the capital of Russia, which functions as a full-time synagogue, both online and offline. Hope our event today is the beginning of a new partnership. We started today with sermon exchange. I'm grateful to Rabbi Brian Lakin for the sermon he delivered to our congregation in Moscow. And may I use this opportunity to encourage members of Temple Beth Shalom to participate in the World Union for Progressive Judaism mission to the former Soviet Union countries of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, which is taking place in May 2022. Rabbi Shneur Zalman, one of the Hasidic rabbis, said, "Keeping up with the times is living in accordance with the weekly Torah portions, focusing on the actual commandments from it." Last week, we all talked about Korach, as it was Parashat Korach, about Korach rebellion, and no one would ever want to be associated with him. So, even in Israel, the voting for the new government was postponed until Sunday, when Torah portion Korach is over, and until we start to read the new Torah portion. Today Torah portion is Hukat. And two things now are in my mind when I think about new government of Israel. One good, one bad. And when we talk about anything going on in the bigger world or in politics, especially politics of Israel or some other countries, we ask just one question. Is it good for the Jews? So let's start from something good. For the first time ever, we see a Reform rabbi elected to the Knesset. This is a truly great achievement for our movement in Israel. Rabbi Gilad Kariv, former chief executive of the Israeli Movement for Reform and Progressive Judaism. He wrote a very encouraging post on social networks, greeting his friend Nachman Shai on his appointment as a Minister of Diaspora Affairs. And I assume that this is good for the Jews, especially for the liberal Reform diaspora Jews. And now the second thing. A photograph of the new government was published in the Orthodox Jewish press. And this very fact would not deserve any particular attention, but in this publication the faces of women ministers were blurred. Unfortunately, this happens not for the first time in history, and I myself witnessed how in a completely tolerant and by definition secular organization like Limmud of the former Soviet Union, some very respectable people act on the same principle, asking women to leave the frame for the duration of an important stage shooting. I would call it an attempt to create a Jewish history where no women are present, or if even they are present, they should not be visible, or at least their faces should be blurred. And here we return to the principle that the Hasidic Rebbe speaks of. Keeping up with the times is living in accordance with the weekly Torah portions, focusing on the actual commandments from it. As our commentators point out, the well stopped giving water because Miryam was not properly mourned. Indeed, two biblical verses follow one after the other. Miryam's death and lack of water. Our Torah portion says about the deaths of Aaron. They mourned him for 30 days. And Miryam's departure from this world did not seem to be noticed. Funeral ceremonies are sometimes called the celebration of life. But Miryam was deprived of this. And as a result, the whole nation began to feel thirsty. A lesson to us, Jews in Israel and in the diaspora. Life of every person deserves a special celebration. If we live according to this principle, then we will not be threatened by any spiritual thirst. This is our mitzvah, commandment, which can be derived directly from this Torah portion Hukat. Everyone's voice must be heard. Everyone's face must be seen. Ken Ihi Ratzon, may it be God will. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to Moscow in May 2022. Shabbat Shalom.